and good morning, everybody. It is a fabulous, clear morning here in Ohio. And here's Buddy Spider with yet another day of news on Sippin Coffee with, you guessed it, Spider. That's me. And it is the 9th of September. And let's see what happened last week. Associated Press with some political news says Ron DeSantis won't meet with Joe Biden during president's trip to survey Hurricane Idalia's damage. Now, let's see if there's an excuse for it or not. It could be just petty politics. That's kind of what it looks like. It looks like petty politics, but let's see. Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office said Friday that he has no plans to meet with President Joe Biden when the Democrat flies to Florida this weekend to survey damage from Hurricane Idalia, suggesting that doing so would hinder disaster response in these rural communities, and so soon after impact the security preparations alone that would go into setting up such a meeting would shut down ongoing recovery efforts. DeSantis spokesperson, DeSantis spokesman, I was going to say spokesperson, but whichever, it doesn't matter, Jeremy Redfern said in a statement. I mean, that sounds good. That sounds above board. He might just be trying to avoid dealing with them because they don't get along, but, it makes sense. You don't want to tie up resources for that kind of thing. So you might as well keep them where the damage is done. Good optics, I suppose, for his campaigning. Yes. Action News 5. The Scent of Eternity. Scientists recreate Egyptian mummification balm's fragrance. Now that's interesting because when Egypt would embalm its mummies, it wasn't just some stinky stuff that they put them on. It was supposed to be a nice smelling, because they're supposed to go into the afterlife smelling good and feeling good, right? And if you want to smell it yourself, you'll have to travel to the Mosgard Museum in Denmark, where it can be found in an upcoming exhibit. It's based on beeswax, plant oils, and tree resins found within balms used more than 3,500 years ago to preserve a noblewoman. And a study detailing the findings was published in the journal Scientific Reports, if you want to follow up on that. So that's cool. That's some cool stuff. I always like stuff from the past. I like when they go back and they recreate spirits and things, or food and whatnot, from old recipes, or from old, like, they created mead from like the resin inside of an old distillery or something once, I think, and that's cool. So I like that kind of stuff, historical. Good stuff. Politico. Sleeper legal fight that could define 2024. Is Trump even eligible to run? Many people say that he's violated the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause. But you have to find him guilty first. You have to find him guilty in one of these trials where they said he had fraud or whatnot. And if he loses, then that means he might be disqualified. But the thing is, even if he's disqualified, if, like, none of the other Republican people can match him. So even if they put forth a different candidate, his voters will still vote for him en masse, and they could still propel him over Biden potentially. It might not matter what party he's in. And I don't know if he's like a write-in vote, that kind of thing. I don't think you can disqualify somebody from that, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the ins and outs of the 14th Amendment, and I'm not saying that I'm not mounting a defense. I'm not saying, hey, he's going to run and you're just going to have to deal with it. I'm just saying I think it's going to be a lot more difficult trying to get him out of the race than just letting them run. You know, that's what I'm thinking. Who knows? But they have to win the trial first. They have to win the trial, showing that he knowingly encouraged election interference and fraud and that kind of stuff. And then who knows? Guess we'll see. Phys.org says Japanese astrophysicists suggest possibility of hidden planet in the Kuiper Belt. Ooh, this has been talked about before. A pair of astrophysicists, one with Kindai University, the other the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan, both in Japan, have found possible evidence of an Earth-like planet residing in the Kuiper Belt. In their paper published in the Astronomical Journal, they describe properties of the Kuiper Belt that they believe are consistent with the existence of a planet not much bigger than Earth. And a lot of people have been on this theory about there being an extra planet somewhere out there. Somewhere. And the Kuiper Belt is just past the orbit of Neptune, so it's out there along with Pluto and all that stuff. And so there could be a distant planet or two hiding out there that we haven't seen before due to maybe the shape of their orbit or what. We don't know exactly just how strong our sun's gravity can extend to capture these planetoids. We have some guesses, we have theories, but science is never settled. Anytime somebody tells you, oh, the science is settled, slap them in the face. Don't actually do that, because that's violence. You don't want to be mean. But metaphorically speaking, slap them in the face with words and tell them, nah, because science is never settled. Science is always evolving and changing based on evidence, and evidence comes in all the time for different things. So don't listen to anybody who says the science is settled, because it usually isn't. But that's cool. I mean, remember some days ago when I talked about how that apocalypse guy was like, oh, the planet Nibiru is supposed to be here and whatever. And that's one of the things that people believe is out there, that the Anunnaki planet of Nibiru, spoken by the Sumerian people in ancient days, supposedly is out there lurking in our solar system. Who knows? It sounds cool. Guess we'll find out. Let's see. CBS News. I just got an email about this and it was weird. Consumers accuse Burger King and other major restaurant chains of false advertising, and I know where this is going. No longer content simply to ask where the beef is, a growing number of consumers are going to court to find out and filing lawsuits claiming that restaurants are being deceptive in how they market their menu items. Well, of course they are. When was the last time that you got something from a fast food restaurant and it looked like the picture? Think about it. I'd say I'll wait, but I don't have that much time because you're going to be there for a while. Like, Taco Bell's a good example. Stuff almost never looks as good as it does in the pictures. McDonald's, never. Never, ever. But now some people are going after Burger King about it. Good luck. I mean, it's never worked before. Who knows? People always want like what they're paying for, but it's marketing. It's all marketing, and it's almost impossible to beat that kind of stuff because it's all potentials. Here's an interesting one from WHYY. Cats and cannons collide at Gettysburg's feline-themed Civil War Museum. That's cool. I didn't know something existed like that. The Civil War Tales Museum of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania uses handmade cat figurines and dioramas to portray pivotal battle moments. And that's cool. That's fun. I like cats. I like cats. I like cannons. I love that kind of stuff. That's fun stuff. That's super fun stuff. You should go see it. You should go there and tell me about it. Go to Gettysburg. I think I've always wanted to go and I've never gone. I think I was supposed to go as we were supposed to go as a class trip and we never went. I don't know why when I was in school. Maybe it was something I was disqualified from. I got disqualified from a couple of field trips because I was a bit rowdy, meaning I attacked somebody usually the day of the event or the day before. I had a reason, I remember at the time, and it felt like a pretty good reason at the time. But of course, you can't be violent in school. So this is elementary school, so it wasn't like I wasn't bringing like weapons and firearms and things. We didn't do that back when I was in school. That's a relatively newish thing since the 2010s on. Maybe a little bit sooner, because Columbine was sooner, wasn't it? Wasn't it like early 2000s? I don't remember. But still relatively newish. Let's see. More about the 14th Amendment and Trump, and you're going to see that coming up a lot. A lot of people are going to be talking about that. This one's from PBS NewsHour, and I'm not going to go into it again. Again, it all just hinges on whether or not they can prove in the trial that he actively meant to overthrow the government. At the time, he was still the government. You know, he wasn't not the government until Biden was sworn in. So I don't know. So it's a weird gray area. Okay, here's this extremely dangerous convicted murderer escapes from Pennsylvania prison. ABC News. This is that guy that got away from the. Oh no, it's not. This isn't the insane asylum. This is something else. This is somebody new. Another killer's on the loose. Danilo Cavalcante was recently sentenced to life in prison for a fatal stabbing. He stabbed his former girlfriend to death in broad daylight, and he escaped from Chester County Prison in Pocopson Township. He was last seen on Wowasset Road in Pocopson Township around 9:40 a.m. that day. That was Thursday. I hope so. This was last week. And according to the Chester County District Attorney's Office, which warned that Cavalcante should be considered extremely dangerous. Hopefully by now he's been caught. If not, keep your eyes open. There's a photo on ABC News website if you want to know what he looks like. HuffPost, of course. HuffPost is barely news, to be honest. Huffington Post, but we're going to give them some shine today. Scarlett Johansson was, quote, almost in tears, unquote, after movie was booed at 2013 Venice Film Festival. Which movie was this? Under the Skin. Under the Skin. I don't remember that one. And the event's artistic director, Alberto Barbara, said the world premiere of Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin starring Johansson was one of the worst screenings I've attended. It was the only time the audience booed a film. And I get it. I get it. You know, you're upset, but if you're going to be in that business, you got to put up with criticism from people not liking your work. You know, you got to have thick skin to be in Hollywood. You've got to. There's no other way around it. You can't just say, "Oh, they're being mean to me," and be upset and say it's causing you stress, because that's what's going to happen. It's not like if you're in any sort of famous position, if you're a famous musician, or if you're a famous movie star, or if you're whatever, and you're in the public eye like that, or an athlete, you're going to deal with a lot of ignorant people. And the only thing you can be like is like, hey, they don't know me personally. They didn't like what I did. Fine. Whatever. Who cares? Maybe somebody did. And if nobody did, who cares? I liked what I did. Unless you didn't. Unless you agree with them. In which case, be like, yeah, I agree with you. This was trash. Because sometimes that happens too. Some actors are only in it for the paycheck, and then when the stuff goes down in flames, they're like, "Oh yeah, I agree, but I had to get paid. People got to live, you know. People got to eat. They got to eat." So thick skin, though. You gotta have thick skin. Reuters says crashed Russian mission left a crater on the moon, and NASA images show. Yeah, that was when they tried to land a lander or a rover or something around the similar time frame as the one from India, that rover, and that one survived, and it's wandering around the moon as we speak. But the Russian one did not. It suffered some kind of an error, a technical error, and it crashed, and it left a crater that we can see. So that's cool. Here's something funny from PC Gamer. Tragic. Skyrim's ultra sneaky bucket trick doesn't work in Starfield. There's a lot of people playing Starfield early access. It's not officially out yet, but a lot of people who paid for pre-orders and things have access to the game ahead of time. And Skyrim from the Elder Scrolls from Bethesda had this trick where you could pick up buckets and put them over shopkeepers' heads so they couldn't see, and then you could rob them blind and they wouldn't call the guards and they wouldn't arrest you. And it was funny. It was hilarious. But apparently it does not work in Starfield. So if you thought it was 100% going to be Skyrim in space, you are going to be disappointed. I have not played it myself yet. As I've said before, I am going to wait until it officially releases, because that way some of the bugs will have worked out, and I'll probably wait for a sale. Or if it goes on Game Pass, I'd love for it to go on Game Pass. But a sale would be nice. I don't like spending a lot on games these days. Associated Press, schooner that sank in Lake Michigan in 1881 found intact miles off Wisconsin coastline. Well, that's cool. Is Lake Michigan does it go up against? It must. I didn't know it was all that far. I didn't know Lake Michigan touched Wisconsin. But it says shipwreck hunters have discovered the intact remains of a schooner that sank in Lake Michigan in 1881 and is so well preserved it still contains the crew's possessions and its final resting spot miles from Wisconsin's coastline. And it's a 156-year-old Trinidad. And they found it in July at a depth of about 270 feet. There's an advertisement. They used side scan sonar to hone in on its location based on survivor accounts and historical records. That's cool stuff. That's cool stuff. I like that kind of thing. I'm all for it. Find that stuff. Take a look. Preserve what you can preserve. Who knows what kind of treasures are out there? There's all kinds of things that happen out in the oceans and the lakes. Like Lake Erie itself. You wouldn't think that it'd be like, because it's not that big, but it's big enough. And there's a lot down there. Go on down. Go take a look. But be careful. The waters are treacherous, even if they're landlocked. Good strong coffee today. Washington Post. Elderly woman's death blamed on attack in North Carolina that cut power to 45,000. Ooh, let's take a look. An elderly North Carolina woman's death when her oxygen machine failed during a power outage has been ruled a homicide by the state medical examiner and blamed on what authorities said was intentional gunfire that hit power substations in her area in December of 2022. That night, attacks on 2 power substations left 45,000 without electricity across Moore County. The North Carolina officials have not announced an arrest in the case, and a motive remained unclear. Interesting. It's too bad, though. It just shows that anytime power goes out, like, people can be at risk. The power grid's got to be better. Like, if somebody attacks one, you got to have backup stuff to go up, like, quick. You can't have the stuff go down. People might be telling me that's first world problems to have electricity, but no, it's vital. It's life these days. Not having electricity in like the winter can be a death sentence for people who live in drafty houses and things. You freeze to death, and I know what it's like not having power in the dead of winter when it is freezing. I know what that's like, and it's not good. And I mean, I'm not at risk, but still, freezing to death is something that even a healthy person can have happen to them. So we got to do something about our power grids. Our power grids have been problematic for a while. Let's see. WWG Gaming News says Nintendo Switch getting PS1 RPG that hasn't been seen in 26 years. What game is it? A cult classic. It's not going to the PS4 or PS5. What is it? It's a game called Front Mission 2 that only came in Japan. So it's the first time.
Mario Brothers
Oh my gosh. Phone, the news is just blaring at me. I forgot to turn down the volume. Hope I don't get dinged on copyright, just like yesterday that happened. But yeah, it's a PS1 strategy RPG, first time on Western gaming consoles. October 5th by publisher Forever Entertainment and developer Storm Trident. And that's cool. If you were into that kind of stuff, if you're into those Japanese-only games, there's still a lot of them out there. Some people swear by them. Some people swear by them. From Billboard, this is good stuff. The Talking Heads' Stop Making Sense album hits top 10 on album sales chart after reissue. Talking Heads was a great band from the 80s and 90s. And they put out some stuff after that. Like there was some stuff they put out in the 2000s without David Byrne. They put out an album that was just the Heads that had a series of guest vocalists. And David Byrne has done a lot of good stuff on his own too. So a lot of really talented stuff. I'll have to check that out and see if it's remastered or anything like that. I could check the article here, but that's okay. I'll just look and see if I can find it. I like remasters if they're done well. The Verge, LG's suitcase TV is as sturdy as it is bizarre. And I'm looking at this thing in this picture. That is weird looking. It's like you open it up and the screen's not on the top, it's on the bottom. What in the heck? It's $999.99, and it's a 27-inch suitcase TV announced for the US earlier this month, and it's on show in Berlin at IFA 2023, which is some kind of convention for technology. It's a touchscreen. It can be swiveled from portrait into landscape like a big phone and set at any angle from straight upwards to straight forwards. This is like crazy stuff. There's one HDMI port and a USB port and a power socket for its built-in battery. Around 3 hours of battery life, according to LG. That's not much for a TV. You know, if I'm watching TV, and I don't watch much TV, but if I do, I'm going to be sitting and watching for a while. That's enough for like one movie these days. It weighs around 30 pounds. It's a 1080p LCD panel and currently available for pre-order. Estimated ship date of October 16th. So if you're into that, check it out on The Verge. LG's suitcase TV. That's cool. It's cool. I don't want one, but it's cool. Oh well. Reuters says, in surprise move, Canada pauses talks on trade treaty with India. Now, I'm going to look this up because Reuters tends to be paywalled all the time. But let's take a look, see if we can read some in here. No. So you're going to have to look that up yourself, I suppose, because I'm not going to register to be part of their website. I don't want them to be sending me stuff all the time. Oh, here we go. ABC News. New COVID variant BA.2.86 is now in 5 states. Here's what to know. Let me tell you what there is to know. Don't worry about it. If you have your vaccine, cool. If you don't, chances are you have already caught it, at least the main strain, a couple of times, if not at least once, and you have an immunity built up. You'll be okay. We know how to treat it. You're okay. Even Mr. Fauci, I'm not going to call him a doctor because he barely qualifies, but Mr. Fauci, I saw an article earlier today, not today, yesterday. I saw an article yesterday, and he said not to be concerned. He said everybody has enough immunity for the most part. It's not going to spread like the early ones did. Everything's fine. Which is funny coming from him because he was the big alarmist guy saying you got to do all this stuff. But, there you go. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. ABC News is trying to scrabble and every last bit that they can pull out of this thing. People are trying to scrape every last bit of news they can out of the virus. And there's nothing to worry about anymore. Yeah, if you're immunocompromised, you should still take your extra steps. You should still be careful, but you should be careful with anything. You should be careful with the flu. You should be careful with the common cold. You should be being careful anyway. All right? If you're sick, stay home. Don't go to work. Don't go out and party. If you're sick, stay home and recover. That's like they teach you that when you're a kid. If you feel sick, don't go to school. Stay home. Rest, recuperate, eat your chicken soup or whatever your alternative is going to be, and then go back when you're not contagious. It's common sense. Nobody followed common sense the last few years with this thing. And that's what I'm telling you now. Common sense. All you got to do, you don't got to be quarantined. You don't got to be forced to stay home by government mandates. If you're sick, take a few days off. Okay? If you're sick, take a few days off till you feel better. Then you can go do whatever you want to do. Rest at home. Take care of it. Keep your fluids up. All that common sense stuff that they always told you when you were a kid. All right? It's fine. We're all fine. We're going to get through it. Again. Just like the last time. Oh, this is a toughie. Another one from WWG. SAG-AFTRA, SAG-AFTRA prepares for potential video game industry strike. This is the union, Screen Actors Guild, that is arguing for fair pay for their writers and people behind the scenes, less so for the actors. Some of them the actors, but for the most part for like the writers, like the bit players and the people who don't always get the big checks. They've been on strike for a while to get better pay from the studios, and it looks like Rockstar Games, Insomniac, and others could soon be impacted by a strike. That's unfortunate. Because that means, games. I like games. I'm a big game person. I'm not as much a movie person anymore as I used to, but I like games, and it's unfortunate that people don't get paid appropriately for the work. Now, some people get paid just fine and don't need to be on these picket lines. They just live these big extravagant lifestyles, and they think they deserve more when they don't. But a lot of other people do get paid a pittance, and those people should be getting fair pay. So I'll have to just buck up and deal with it if it hits my beloved video games. And one last article. Again, looks like more gaming news. From PC Gamer. CD Projekt Red casually mentions that after Phantom Liberty, it's done with Cyberpunk 2077, and I don't blame them. It had such a disastrous debut. It had so many problems and issues. They're basically rebuilding the game from the ground up, along with the new DLC. When the DLC comes out, they're going to have this big update that fundamentally changes how the game is, like all the skill trees and how things work. It's going to be essentially a brand new game. So they've put out 2 games of it, plus this DLC. And it's not like a live service game like a Destiny or Halo now or Call of Duty or that kind of stuff or Fortnite. So I think I get it. They put all this work in, they put their dues in, and they're going to be done. It's unfortunate. It could have had room for many more DLC and extra missions, but I see where they're coming from. They've put in a ton of work, which is, partially their own fault. If people don't properly beta test things anymore, they use in-house systems rather than like everyday normal systems. So I get it. I get it. But that's the news from last week today. And I hope you folks are enjoying Sippin Coffee with Spider. I've enjoyed my coffee. It's extra strong today, so maybe I'll stay up. Maybe I won't go take another nap after this is over. Maybe I'll stay up and have some breakfast. I don't have any good breakfast food, so my daughter has some Pop-Tarts. I don't think I want to do that. I'll probably have some toast. Some toast. That's about it. But yeah, I hope you guys had a good time. Questions, comments, concerns, drop them on this video, or of course, email me at uncannyspiritsclub.com. Nobody has emailed me yet, so I assume nobody's that mad at me so far. I guess I'm not that controversial as I thought I was, or people just don't care, which is a fair point. I got like almost 200 videos on my YouTube here, and only 13 subscribers. And I don't know if they even watch anything. A lot of people don't even hit likes on anything. If you're one of those 13 people, drop a like on some videos. Go into my multitude of playlists. I've got gaming videos, I've got tasting videos, I've got robot videos, I've got these, I've got the regular podcast on Mondays. Drop a like on something. Share it with your friends. It takes 3 seconds. It's literally like the least you could do. If you don't want to interact or talk to me or anything, you know what? That's fine. Just drop a like, hit a share. It's the least you could do. It takes almost no effort, but it could help me grow and prosper. Maybe. I need like 1,000 subscribers for YouTube to start giving me any sort of attention. But still, every subscriber counts, and you could help those numbers go up. I'm talking to you right there. You know who you are. Okay? So tell your friends to wake up with Spider, have a coffee, have some breakfast, and I'll see you folks tomorrow.